There is a version of you, and you know exactly who I am talking about, who has spent years quietly accumulating the right beliefs, the right job, the right relationships, the right body, and the right opinions, only to arrive at some ordinary Tuesday afternoon feeling a hollowness so precise, so located in the chest, that it almost has a shape. You have done everything correctly. You have followed the script, and still, something fundamental is missing. Not broken, exactly. Not depressed, exactly. Just untethered, like a kite that has been cut loose and does not yet know whether that is tragedy or freedom. Most people carry that feeling quietly. They chalk it up to stress, to burnout, to not having found their passion yet. They assume the framework they inherited, the one that said work hard, be good, follow the rules, and meaning will arrive like a reward, just needs a little more time to deliver. But what if I told you that the framework itself is the problem? What if the most urgent philosopher in Western history diagnosed your exact condition 140 years ago, wrote 3 ideas that could cure it, and was then so badly misread that his prescription became the very poison people warned you about? His name was Friedrich Nietzsche, and he was not trying to destroy you. He was trying to save you. Before we go any further, let us be clear about something. Nietzsche is almost universally taught wrong. He is introduced through 3 terrifying sound bites. God is dead, the Ubermensch, eternal recurrence, stripped of all context, and handed to people as proof that philosophy is either dangerous or useless. He has been blamed for nihilism, weaponized by fascists, and dismissed as a madman who died in an asylum. Every single one of those readings is, at its core, a misreading. And this is the part that changes everything. Because when you read him correctly, these 3 ideas do not destabilize you. They form a complete, urgent, deeply personal manual for rebuilding your life from the inside out. Let us begin where Nietzsche began, with the death nobody warned you about. The death nobody warned you about when Nietzsche wrote the words, "God is dead," in 1882. He was not making an atheist argument. He was not cheering. He was, in fact, terrified. The madman in his parable who delivers the announcement does not gloat. He weeps. He arrives in the marketplace screaming, "We have killed him, you and I," and the people around him do not even understand what has been lost. That is the horror. Not that God is gone, but that the framework is gone, and almost no one has noticed yet. Understand what that framework actually did. For centuries across the Western world, a single cosmological architecture gave life its pre-installed meaning. You knew why you existed: to serve, to love, to earn salvation, to participate in a story larger than yourself. You knew what good and evil were. You knew which direction was up. The framework was not just religious. It was existential infrastructure. It told you where to point your life. It told you that suffering had a purpose. It told you that your choices mattered on a cosmic scale. You are not alone in the universe. You are a character in a story that made sense. And then, slowly, and then all at once, that infrastructure collapsed, not because of one argument or one book, but because of centuries of science, of Enlightenment rationalism, of the growing impossibility of believing in a pre-packaged story about human destiny. The scaffolding came down. But here's what nobody talks about. Nietzsche did not celebrate that collapse. He diagnosed it as the single most dangerous event in human history because he saw what would rush in to fill the void without a source of transcendent meaning. He predicted human beings would either collapse into nihilism, the belief that nothing matters, or they would invent cheap substitutes. Nationalism, ideology, consumerism, the cult of comfort. Does any of that sound familiar? He saw a century coming. He watched the scaffolding fall and asked the only question that mattered. What do you build in its place? The death nobody warned you about is not God's death. It is the death of borrowed meaning, the death of the script you were handed without your consent. And the terror Nietzsche felt was not philosophical abstraction. It was the exact same hollow chest Tuesday feeling you have been carrying. He just had the courage to name it. Now, here is where it gets personal. The person you were always supposed to become, the Ubermensch, translated awkwardly as Superman or Overman, is the most misunderstood concept in all of modern philosophy. It has been weaponized by people who wanted it to mean racial superiority, a project that Nietzsche himself explicitly and passionately rejected when his sister Elizabeth took control of his unpublished manuscripts after his mental collapse. She edited his work to align with the rising German nationalism she adored. Nietzsche, in his letters, had called nationalism this new sickness. He had written against anti-Semitism with contempt. What Elizabeth gave to the world was a distortion, and that distortion cast a shadow over everything. So let us cut through the shadow entirely. The Übermensch is not a superhuman. It is not a better race or a stronger body or a superior intelligence. It is a psychological posture, and it is one that you are either living or refusing to live right now. The Ubermensch is a person who creates their own values rather than inheriting them. A person who looks at the collapsed framework and, instead of mourning it or replacing it with a ready-made ideology, sits down in the rubble and asks, what do I actually believe? What do I actually value when no authority is watching? What kind of human being do I actually want to become? Let's be honest. Most of us never ask those questions. Not really. We adopt the values of our family, our culture, our peer group, our algorithm, and we call it personality. We inherit fear and call it caution. We inherit conformity and call it stability. We inherit other people's definitions of success and spend decades chasing them. And then we arrive at that hollow Tuesday wondering why nothing fits. Nietzsche called this herd morality, not as an insult, but as a diagnosis. The herd is safe. The herd is comfortable. The herd is also the reason you feel like you are living someone else's life. The person you are always supposed to become is not a superhuman. They are simply you, self-authored, you having done the terrifying work of examining what you actually believe, burning away what was handed to you without your consent, and choosing deliberately, consciously, with full accountability, who you are going to be. Viktor Frankl, who survived Auschwitz and built an entire school of psychotherapy from the wreckage, called this the last human freedom, the freedom to choose your response, to choose your meaning, to choose yourself. He was building directly on Nietzsche's foundation. And modern developmental psychology calls the same capacity self-authorship, the stage of maturity in which you stop being defined by the systems around you and start constructing your own internal compass. The Ubermensch is not a destination, it is a practice. It is the daily refusal to outsource your soul. And this is the part that changes everything. Because Nietzsche is not asking you to invent meaning out of thin air. He is asking you to recognize that you have always been inventing it. You have just been doing it unconsciously from borrowed materials. The question is whether you will do it deliberately from your own. Would you live it again? Now we arrive at eternal recurrence. And this is the idea that most people find either absurd or paralyzing. Nietzsche asks you to imagine that you will live your life again, not as a metaphysical promise, not as a description of the physics of time, but as a thought experiment of devastating psychological precision. Imagine that this life, every moment of it, every embarrassment, every loss, every joy, every wasted afternoon, every peak of love, every chapter of regret, loops forever, exactly as it was, not symbolically, literally. Now, here is where it gets strange. Nietzsche did not propose this as a belief system. He proposed it as a test. The question is not whether it is true. The question is, how do you feel when you imagine it? Does your gut cease? Do you want to reject the idea? Escape it? Argue with it? That reaction is information. It is not weakness. It is a compass. It is pointing at the exact parts of your life that you are tolerating rather than choosing, enduring rather than designing, living on autopilot rather than inhabiting with intention. The person who can say genuinely, not as performance, not as toxic positivity, yes, I would live this again, is what Nietzsche called amor fati, the love of fate, not the acceptance of fate, not the resignation to fate, the love of it, the full embrace of every piece of your life as the necessary raw material for who you are. This is not passive. This is the most demanding psychological practice in philosophy because it does not ask you to pretend everything is fine. It asks you to take such radical ownership of your life that you would not trade a single piece of it, because every piece is yours, built by you, authored by you, and therefore unrepeatable and irreplaceable. So, how do you actually use this? You do not wait for the insight to arrive fully formed. You begin with one question tonight, a question Nietzsche is asking you right now across 140 years of silence. Is there a part of my life I am living on borrowed terms? A job chosen for approval, a relationship maintained from fear, a belief inherited and never examined, a version of yourself that fits someone else's expectations, but not your own deepest knowing? If the answer is yes, and for most of us, the answer is yes, then Nietzsche's three ideas are not a philosophy. They are a set of instructions. The framework has collapsed. That is not the disaster. The disaster is filling the void with the first comfortable substitute you find. The Ubermensch is not a fantasy of superiority. It is the quiet daily commitment to self-authorship, and the eternal recurrence is not a cosmic sentence. It is the most honest mirror ever held up to a human life. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not missing a gene or a gift or a grace that other people have. You are simply standing in the rubble of a framework that was never built for you to begin with, holding a blueprint that the whole world told you was dangerous, and beginning slowly, seriously, with every ounce of courage you have, to build something real. Nietzsche was not a nihilist. He was not a fascist. He was a person in tremendous pain, writing in tremendous urgency, for people exactly like you, people who had lost their anchor and needed not a new authority to follow, but the realization that they had always been capable of becoming their own. He wrote not to create followers, but to provoke awakening. He did not want disciples. He wanted people who would make his philosophy unnecessary, because they had gone further than he did. That hollow feeling on a Tuesday afternoon, that is not emptiness. That is the space where your self-authored life is waiting to be built. Nietzsche called you here, and you have always had everything you need to answer. Go build it.